Welcome back to the G.O.A.T Marketing Show. Today, we're going to be talking about agriculture marketing and what makes it so special and how we can keep credibility and trust through our AI prompting. And today we are talking about what makes agriculture marketing different and how we can apply that to AI to properly refine our prompts and do what we want to do with it.
Yeah, sounds good. This is cool. This is an interesting thing to talk about, and obviously, it's something that we see a lot in our everyday work, working with a lot of different ag companies throughout a lot of different facets of the industry. So yeah, let's get into it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think the biggest thing right off the top, it's livelihood. You're selling to people who are trying to create a legacy that it's been in their family for years. And while you might not be selling directly to farmers, you might be working with the companies that sell to the farmers. You still have to speak to that market deeper. You got to understand that, if they mess something up this year, that could hurt them in the following years, right? That could hurt their children. That could hurt everything they're about. So I think that's one of the biggest things that, you got to keep looking at is it's a legacy. Livelihood is your legacy and your livelihood is your business, right? So
I think that's something that has happened in terms of ag marketing in the last little bit that I've seen is like trying to convey to even broader audiences like how important ag is for everyone and how much we rely on it and how it should not be overlooked. I feel like maybe it was in a lot of places. Like, I don't come from an ag background, so it wasn't something that was necessarily on my radar a lot before the last few years. And so I think a lot of like the marketing that I've seen in this space and produced in this space in the last few years has helped me to realize like how crucial it is, and I hope that those messages are reaching other people like me as well.
what's really cool about it is just climate and location. There's thousands of different climate zones within borders of Canada. Like everything's different. Not everything's going to work in certain spots, certain stuff work in others. It's so unique, and that's what makes it so interesting too, I think. Even looking east versus west, which I know you and I do a lot, just the differences between that, but even on a smaller scale, like your neighbor's farm down the road with a different soil type, it might not take the herbicide might not take the same way that yours takes down the road. You look at it and it's, how do you bridge that gap between that trust that should come from results versus, what you actually should have gotten? That's something else you got to consider is the risk factor, right? Something's going to work for this guy, but it might not work for somebody else. Promising
Yeah.
yield results is always a tough thing too, right? That ROI is important, and if you're telling them they're gonna 2x their yield this year, but next they plant, they spray, they do whatever, and it doesn't come back at 2x. Well, maybe all your trials here 2 hours from their farm were showing that it was going to work, but as soon as you move off, you might be promising things that nothing can meet, that like nothing can hold up to.
Yeah. Yeah, that is a big thing is like we try to always make data driven decisions. And I know that obviously a lot of farmers and growers out there and farm managers and agronomists are obviously doing the same thing. To your point, like about results, like that is a big thing that we try to do across the board, everywhere. If you have a product, you have to have results. You have to have proven results that it works. And the interesting thing in ag, as you said, is that those results change if you move 100 meters. And so that, it does drive the need to have consistently updating your results, showing your plot trials, showing like, test plots and what is happening, showing how you've competed up like against your competitors. Like that, there's a lot of good data out there. So it's great that a lot of the companies that we work with have that data and they know this, they understand this, and they've been collecting that data. They've been testing their products heavily, and so we have a lot of this stuff. And then is how do we tell a story around that? Like how do we make sure that you know, whoever in a certain county of Minnesota knows that we have tested their product there and this was the result and this was the result compared to, these other three options that they could go with, and now here's why they should go with ours. So um, it does make it interesting from a marketing perspective, uh, you know, getting that data and then figuring out how to use it, and um, how do we talk to people in such like a geo-targeted way, but is also timed with, as you say, like changes in climate, changes in economic factors, changes in seasonality. Like you have to somehow find that sweet spot between everything where it's like this is the right time in the right place and telling this message to the right person, and then the right product, and like if you can nail those, then we've done our jobs as marketers, and then that's where AI comes in. Like that's a
Right.
lot of moving pieces. That's a lot of stuff to get right and stuff to have aligned. AI allows us to very easily align all of those things, create a schedule, create, a map that shows us where we're going, when we need to be there. Um, help to consolidate that data, help to pick out like the insights from our data that we do have and turn that into something actionable way faster than if we were doing that manually.
Absolutely. And that's the thing, until you give AI what it needs to know, especially when it could make false claims, it could pull data from unreliable sources or competitive sources that, that aren't authorized for use. Until you give it that power to make those statements too, right? It's not going to be much use. And I think you'll see that with some of these missed prompts. The other big thing, of course, is it's not just a one person decision. It's a family thing. I don't think there's anyone in my family that wouldn't go talk to my grandfather before they did anything agriculturally, because he knew, and he would have talked to his father before, right? And that's the thing. It's not a quick decision. It's something that takes time, something that people have to think over. There's thousands of people that they could go talk to as well, whether it's within their community, and word of mouth is a huge thing in the ag community, or their crop advisors, their agronomists, somebody. It's not just always straight to the point. It's one of those things. It's a back and forth, right? Um, and I think that that is super useful to understand when you're trying to figure out a language and how to speak to those different levels. And I think AI is getting good at it. And if you explain to it personas, right, everything about who it's talking to and what kind of tone it should be using, helps easily kind of bridge the gap between those connections, and tighten everything up, make it a little easier to sell for.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good point. Like AI is definitely helpful in this space, but at the end of the day, as we've heard people say, and when we've been talking to, guys like Doug and Rhett and whatnot, we know that agriculture is still a space that is built on relationships and it's built on authenticity, and a lot of things are still handshakes. As was it Doug who said that?
Yeah, yeah,
A lot of people that I've met in this space in the last few years, like ag is a very like tech forward advanced space. Farmers know what they're doing. They know what tools like are out there, and they're at like the forefront. A lot of them are at the forefront of advancement and they know what's going on. But then there is like that more like traditional personable side that is, you want to do business with someone that you trust, and you want to do business with someone who you have like a good relationship with. AI is more of a supplement rather than the main course. Like you still need people driving it, and you still need people to be the face of whatever you're doing, and to be able to shake a hand, and to be able to build, maintain relationships and whatnot. AI just kind of makes it easier to do all of that. But uh, yeah, there's I feel like a lot of the farmers that I've worked with, they can call bullshit pretty
yeah,
quickly.
absolutely.
And so if you're lazy with your AI use, or if you're um, not humanizing what you're doing, like people see through that pretty easily, as we saw in the last episode too.
Absolutely.
Uh, so like you got to be authentic in what you're doing, whether you're using AI or not. Like that AI does not change that. That still has to be true. Talking about education, I would say that that's one of the spaces that AI has like had, at least in my experience, had the biggest impact. Like you think about the, when the internet came around. I don't know if you remember that.
No, I
Maybe.
don't. I don't. Do you remember that? Yeah.
I guess I don't remember that either. But I
Oh,
remember when it was like first became like easily accessible,
right.
and it actually had stuff on it that you could go. I remember when you could go on to Google and say, "Give me the answer to this question."
Right.
Like that was the worlds that opened up is obviously huge, but AI kind of just like expedited that process like crazy, where you can get any answer to any question and you can get it in detail and you can ask follow-up questions. You can get the whole picture of some very complex question in a matter of seconds. So when we're talking about like education, one of the things that we always try and do, well, not always, but in a lot of cases, like we want our clients to be thought leaders in whatever they're talking about. We want them to be at the forefront of knowledge and education. And one, it helps obviously if people know what your product is and how it works, then it obviously is going to be beneficial. But also just like being a resource for people in general, it contributes to the entire industry. It helps everyone to get better at what they do. It helps build trust in your brand. It helps build credibility. It does a whole lot more than, producing like a, thought leadership article does a lot more than just, drive people to your website. So I think like AI is an incredible teacher. So if we can harness that to teach our audiences about our brands and our products and whatnot, like it's it's a huge use case for it. And you can build whole courses with AI. You can, teach an entire class. You can teach anyone anything basically with AI. So being able to use that to help with thought leadership, that's a big one that you're going to see a lot more of. And then like tying in also what we did last week, like you have to present that in a way to people that doesn't feel like necessarily like AI is feeding them an answer. Because if they
Right.
want, they can just go to ChatGPT and ask the same question, right? Like, why would they come to your website in order to get this information? You have to do something in order to present it in a way that's easier to read than chat, or more entertaining, more engaging to read than what chat is going to give them. So, AI should be used in that process. We should be using AI to help teach people, but you have to have more than just that, if that makes sense.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Well, that's very good. Very good. Well, thanks for that, John. I really appreciate the conversation. I think we touched on everything. Welcome back to the Giant Go Marketing Show. Today we're continuing our talk about training your bots properly to provide accurate copy and accurate marketing statements. And in this case, we're talking about dairy, and we're using a mastitis medication as the example. AI does not understand dairy. It understands the words about dairy. Seasonality, claims, and trust are massive parts of this industry. And it unfortunately does not get when you were trying to market what you're trying to do. If the claims are true, it's just trying to sell the product. Unfortunately, results that cannot be held up to that are promised are what kill products like this. Without domain-specific training, AI just defaults to what sounds convincing, not what's actually true. And that's where that trust goes to die. So here's an output that was given before the bot was trained properly with any of the seasonality guidelines, any product sheets. Eliminate mastitis fast. Guaranteed results in 7 days. All right, dissect this here. There's a treatment claim that it's going to eliminate mastitis. It's a therapeutic claim, needs approval. We don't have that. This product isn't a drug. It's a supplement. It guarantees that it's going to get rid of it, which is unrealistic. No product could ever guarantee that. And the timeline of 7 days was not in the data. It doesn't have data. It's just trying to sell the product. Another one, our breakthrough udder health formula eliminates mastitis and boosts milk yield by 18% in just 1 week, proven across Canadian dairies with university-backed research. Okay, looking at this right off the top, 18% yield boost. There's no study for that, and there's no proof that that would help in every given scenario, like we talked about earlier. Seasonality, land, area, everything is going to determine results. 1 week timeline, again, unrealistic. There's no referred studies, and university backed. Like, what university? Not only that, but it's illegal. People are going to spot that instantly, and if you're using this and you're trying to use AI to create your marketing techniques, you're using AI to try to market your product, and people are picking up that these are the wrong tone, there's a compliance risk, invented numbers, you're going to lose all trust. You're going to lose all credibility with them immediately. But we're not prompting, we're training. We have trust gates we've set up. So there's a seasonality gate. So you got to make sure you're in the right area, and their regional determination. If we're talking about mastitis, you got to look at humidity. You're looking at what kind of bedding they're using, evidence and compliance. We have stats that can prove what the product actually does, but even then we're still not going to that extent of saying, 18% better this, we'll have it gone in a week. We're never going that far no matter what. Make sure we're speaking to the right audience, whether we're talking to the farmers, the herds health person, the vet. You got to make sure you're speaking properly to those right personas. And of course, the truth of the product truth sheets. We need details that are completely true, completely legal, that have been tested, that have been approved. So for example, talking about the seasonality gate, winter versus summer even, it's going to be different. So if you're not providing the month in your prompt when you're asking for, I want to try to market this product, what can you help me with? Well, winter pressures are going to be different than your summer pressures. And along with the product itself, you're going to be trying to give guidelines, of course. But you need to make sure you're speaking to the right season, because certain things aren't going to work. A copy that doesn't take into account differences in seasonality is immediately going to destroy your credibility as well. You're going to see that you're talking about, frozen ground, right, in the summer, because you didn't specify when you were selling this product. And of course, this is the biggest one, absolutely no hallucinated claims ever. And AI notoriously, as we know, has been known to hallucinate certain things. Certain words too, there's problem words like treat, cure, eliminate, prevent, or heal. And of course, you can't invent any data. You can't give any guarantee, because the product might not work. Like we said, there's a big seasonality difference, and every barn and operation is going to be doing things differently. Of course, having your audience, your personas in there, and a truth sheet are going to be very important. Like if you're talking to a farmer, you're going to want to talk about on-farm outcomes. How's it going to fit into their management? If you're talking to the vet, you kind of need to see how it's going to work, mode of action. And then if you're talking to the nutritionist, you want to talk with a nutrition program too, to assist the aid of that supplement. But all in all, these people are going to be working together too, even if there is a decision made. So you kind of want to be able to speak to everybody and make sure that you have the best selling point possible. So here's a trained output after we train the bot with our seasonality rules, what it can and can't not say as far as, cure, treat, whatever, no hallucination. Here's what it came up with. When summer pressure rises, keep udder health boring. Support udder health when heat and flies stack up. There's no claims here. It's just saying, we're going to help you out here. When conditions are making it harder, we're going to try to assist. It's seasonal correct, because we're talking to the farmer in the summer. It says support, not eliminate. There's no fake stats. The tone is very realistic and appropriate. I think overall we know that we need the correct seasonality, right language, no invented claims, speaking honestly, and it offers them a chance to give it a try, and see if it works for them, and if they implement these other changes too, and try to work with other things to improve the condition of mastitis, it might work for them. Thanks again for joining us on the Giant Goat Marketing Show. Today we talked about what makes agriculture special from a marketing perspective, how to properly prompt your AI, and create the content your viewers want to see.